Now, one thing that we cannot deny is the fact that someone who is emotionally unavailable tend to display these signs that can often be perceived as a red flag when you are starting to get to know them. And sometimes it can be really tricky because a lot of people can display confident traits, and it's often the case when you're getting to know someone, especially so in a romantic connection. However, today we are going to talk about 8 signs that you can look out for on how to spot someone who is emotionally unavailable very early on to save you from extreme heartbreak and what could possibly be the most frustrating, difficult connection or relationship that you could end up having. People who are emotionally unavailable often are not attuned to their own emotions, and they struggle to communicate their needs in a healthy, secure way. And in the case of some, they can sometimes seem very confident and secure in the early stages. However, as time passes, you will notice the signs that I am about to share with you. My name is Veena Raji and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to talking about childhood trauma, narcissistic abuse, and healing attachment styles, something that I have worked on myself over the last couple of years without any professional help. And I have started this channel to talk about my journey and share about what worked for me, hoping that it will help for those of you who are currently on your healing journey and you need some, information or support. I hope that this will help you just as much as it helped me. Sign number 1 is inflexible or having rigid boundaries. Now, we all know that one person that could be your family member, your friends, or someone that you may have dated who just cannot seem to accommodate to your needs. It's always about what they want. It's their needs. It's what works for them, and everyone needs to accommodate to them. And whenever you try to ask for your needs to be met or something that is important to you, they would often dismiss that and make it seem less important. They can come off very invalidating, and oftentimes they can also come across very selfish and inconsiderate, which is how you describe someone who is inflexible, someone who doesn't wish to take your feelings into consideration. And I'm sure we may have all come across individuals who have these traits, and naturally someone who is inconsiderate of others' needs, wants, feelings, emotions, and are often very dismissive and invalidating, and would only do things that is self-serving just to accommodate to their own needs. Now, this are someone that is emotionally unavailable. So the next time you are dealing with someone who's just simply inflexible, who would not offer to do anything, who would always want things on their terms, they would want to only do things that works for them, they only want to go to that restaurant because that's what they like, they would only want to watch the movies that's good, that's of interest to them, they would only go for that sports event, they would only want to visit a family member because they're comfortable with, or they would not want to visit your family because there's something that's wrong with that. Now, all this falls under the category of someone that's inflexible. Now, there are many other options on how to describe someone that can come across inflexible, and I'm not going to get into details, but I believe that you get the point here. Number 2, avoiding intimacy. They tend to avoid any kind of intimacy in a real way, and this can be conversations about themselves. Now, if you're getting to know someone new, oftentimes the conversations can be very surface level, or they can come off very secretive. They would not discuss much about them. They would not want to open up or share about their past or talk about their family. They generally would not really share much about their personal lives, and for some, they can be so rigid that they would not even share much about what they do for a living. And yes, this is true. I do know of people who actually don't share about what they do for a living. I don't know where they work, where they live, and I've known them for years. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic connection. This can even be in friendships. It can even be family members. They also are typically not comfortable with physical intimacy. In case of a romantic partner, they would just make excuses. They don't like PDA, they don't want to hold hands, or they don't want to be intimate unless it's in the confines of a home. And yeah, it may vary for everyone. And for some, it can also show up in friendships where they might not be comfortable with hugs. They are not comfortable sharing space. Like maybe if you go for a holiday, they don't really want to share the same room. They are not great at communicating their feelings or emotions. And naturally, you can just get a sense that they have this discomfort around sharing and just any kind of connection or vulnerability. And it's very hard to have any safe reciprocal connection with someone who actively avoids intimacy. Number 3, fear of commitment. And this is very common in the dating space. Now, for a lot of people who may have dated someone, you know that they can be very vague when it comes to the idea of commitment, like not wanting to put a label on it and would avoid any conversations brought up by their partner, and they generally have difficulties in planning for anything in the future, like planning up for a holiday or wanting to talk about the future or maybe like moving in together. They would not be able to have that conversation. They would never initiate, they would not actively participate, and every time you try to bring up this conversation, they would say something to sort of like create a distance and just disengage or deflect from that conversation, because all these actions requires some form of commitment, and people who fear commitment would not be able to engage in this conversations that requires a certain level of commitment. And naturally, they also won't commit to you. However, they will make hints about having feelings or acting a certain way like they are in a committed relationship. However, they would not want to say it out loud because saying it makes it real. So anyone who has fear of commitment is emotionally unavailable. This is a huge red flag, and the moment someone gives you the subtle hints and not wanting to put label, that is your sign to leave them alone, move on, and go find someone else. Sign number 4, they are often very defensive. Now, someone that's emotionally unavailable cannot take or handle feedback well, especially in personal relationships. They often view feedback as a criticism and view it as a personal attack to their character. And this can also cause them to further distance themselves. So every time you try to offer a feedback, you would notice that they would just tend to pull back, they would withdraw and offer you the silent treatment, which is a form of distancing because they feel like they have been criticized or they have been attacked, and they do take it very personally. And there is generally no accountability on their part, and they won't apologize for anything that they do, and they just cannot seem to see their part in the situation, even if you were to bring it up, and they would just deflect and refuse to take any form of accountability or even apologize. Sign number 5, emotionally or mentally checked out. Now, they can always come off as emotionally or mentally checked out and not really paying attention to what you are saying during a conversation or conflict, and it's just simply impossible. It's just really hard to hold a reciprocal conversation. Now, this doesn't mean that they are not being present and being there listening to you. While they might still be there and engaging in the conversation, it just gets really hard because they would not lean in and try to connect with you emotionally on where you are coming from and empathize with your challenges or your emotions in a genuine way. So they do actually have trouble to empathize with another person. So while they might be able to offer some level of comfort, it can often seem very surface level, but when you look at it, you would feel like when you are trying to hold a conversation with them, they often just come across very cold. It can be very bland. Like you can just tell that they are not able to tune in and engage with you in the way that you would expect. There would not be any sense of genuine, authentic emotional connection, because they also can often take days to respond to calls, to texts. They would make up some excuses. They're not very engaging in general because time is a limited resource, and for someone who is emotionally unavailable, and especially for someone who has more avoidant tendencies, they tend to safeguard their time and they would not want to give their time easily to anyone. So this can be very inflexible, very frustrating, and they tend to also withhold communication. They would not communicate with you as you would expect. While it's healthy to have certain boundaries around communication, because as an adult we do all have responsibilities, we have work commitments and other important stuff that takes up our time and mental energy. However, with someone who is more emotionally disconnected, it can often be very challenging in wanting to get any real meaningful connection or quality time to connect with them, because this is how we actually build connection and bond, and that's something that they are not capable of. So all they do is try to keep everyone at arm's length, especially when it comes to romantic partners. Number 6, general lack of empathy. As I shared earlier, most people who are emotionally unavailable are very much disconnected to their own emotions and their own needs. They don't even understand what's going on internally. And when they are so disconnected within themselves, they do not have the ability or the capacity to relate to another person's emotions. And because of that, they can often come across very cold, distant. They can come across as if they don't really care. So while you might be able to sit with them them and share, talk about your problems. And if you're going through something that's challenging, something that's just emotionally difficult, and you want someone there, they might just be present in the sense of just being able to listen to you. They will still talk to you, but you will somehow just feel like you're not getting that connection that you'd really need. Like, you can just sense that general lack of empathy, because someone who is emotionally available would be able to lean in and offer you some level of comfort. They would be able to check in on you, understand your pain, your challenges, and you would be able to sense that comfort that you receive from someone that's emotionally available, as compared to someone who's emotionally unavailable and they just have this general lack of empathy. And oftentimes you will be able to pick it up after some time getting to know them. And number 7 is a lack of effort. Now, they don't really initiate, they don't really make plans or actively want to make plans with you. Usually they will respond when you ask them to do something. However, there's just this general lack of initiative on their part. Like, they would not want to offer to do something special or something exciting. They would not want to plan the next outing or the next trip. You can just tell when someone does not offer much. They won't do much. However, they are quite comfortable to go along with other plans. And you would often see this in group settings, or especially in a friend group, where one person or two person or more would be doing all the planning and the scheduling and you name it, and then you have another friend who is always happy to just tag along. They would come along and they would be okay with everything that you have planned, but they usually aren't really an active participant in the sense of wanting to contribute to the planning, giving ideas, and just trying to do some work. So you would often feel like some kind of resentment after some times, where you feel like, okay, this person really doesn't really contribute much whenever we plan to do something. The last sign would be avoiding conflict. Now, this one is a huge red flag. Usually this is not a very obvious in the context of friendships or maybe even a workplace environment. You would often see them as someone who doesn't really want to engage in conflicts, but essentially what they really are doing is they are avoiding conflict. Conflicts are overwhelming, so what they do is they walk away, they try to avoid, they sweep it under the rug and assume that everything will be back to normal and they can come back at it and pretend like nothing has ever happened. And this can be very detrimental, especially if it's a romantic connection, or if it's a family member. This will eventually build up a lot of resentment, because connections are meant to thrive on our ability to build and repair around conflicts. That's just how we connect and relate and bond with another person. Conflicts are part of any kind of relationship dynamic. So if someone is always pushing it away, giving you the silent treatment, not wanting to talk about it, making excuses every time you try to bring up or try to address an issue, that is because they just do not want to confront, and they don't have that emotional maturity and capacity to be able to navigate around conflicts in a healthy, secure way, like what a secure person would do. Because a lot of people who are emotionally mature and secure would want to try to talk and resolve the conflict so that we can move forward. Now, in the case of someone who is emotionally unavailable, they do not have the skills to navigate around conflict. So what they do is they just push away, avoid from dealing with it. They would shut down, and then they try to deflect blame, refuse accountability, or in some cases they would not even want to apologize. So this can be really challenging. So these are some of the 8 signs that you can look out for on how to spot someone who is emotionally unavailable very early on when you're getting to know someone. This can be at a workplace setting, this can be new friends or new romantic partner. If you're dating someone new and you just can't make sense of certain behaviors, you want to look out for some of the signs to see if they are displaying any one or more of these traits. Now, just because someone has 1 or 2 traits, now that does not necessarily make them emotionally unavailable. But then if you see that they are displaying some of these traits, 4 or 5 traits, now that's definitely a red flag, and you want to be a little bit more careful, have healthy boundaries, so you would not get burned at the end of this connection, or if you're trying to forge any kind of connection with them, you don't want to get hurt. So I hope this information helped you, and I hope to share more in my next video. So thank you for watching, and please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help me grow my channel, and I will see you again. Bye now.